To Grace Gallagher now, who is co-artistic director at the Ugly Bucket Theatre. Grace, good afternoon.
Hello, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Tell us about this show, Good Grief.
Yes, so back in about 2019, I graduated uni in 2017 in Liverpool, and a good friend and a comedy lecturer who had taught me and other people in the company while we were on the course had a terminal cancer diagnosis, and kind of one of the last things he asked us to do before he died was if we'd be willing to create kind of like a short 10-minute comedy clowning show about death to be performed at his memorial service, which was like, even when we were asking him, like, what do you want it to be like what are the details? And he was very much like, well, I'm not going to see it, like, do whatever you want. I want you guys to make what you want to make. And we created kind of a short version where we basically kind of interviewed him in like our last meeting, and we used the recording of his voice to kind of inspire this short comedy clowning piece. But it was almost like a snowball, and it spiraled, and we found that we kind of had opened up a massive can of worms, and there was so much more to talk about, and we wanted to reach out to so many more people that it's developed over the past few years into a full hour-length show. And basically we interviewed people from all over, and we worked with Care Merseyside and Dramatic Recovery in Liverpool, and we talked to loads of different people about all their experiences of grief and bereavement. And basically what we do is we kind of take these recordings and we will turn them into techno music or use them to create outrageous clowning scenes. And the show is kind of like this high energy, electric experience full of like memories that kind of constantly teeters on that kind of line between comedy and tragedy.
That's fascinating, that line between comedy and tragedy.
Yeah.
But also, interestingly, attitudes towards the passing of someone, whether it's grieving, or I'm trying to work out sometimes a percentage of grieving versus celebration, and celebration versus grieving, and how different cultures may approach it differently, or just different people approach it differently. You must have seen, Grace, across this, a huge scope of different attitudes and approaches to dealing with death.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spoke to people who are in totally different, ways of processing their grief. And we spoke to people who were a few years down the line, and we also spoke to people who their mum had passed away like 2 weeks before they did an interview with us. So we really got to see it from all different kind of perspectives. And I think what was interesting was we were very scared about making the show and scared about talking to people about grief. And I think when we started this interview process, we were very cautious, and we were worried, are we going to say the right thing? Are we going to say the wrong thing? And I think we found that because we seemed to just not talk about it at all, that it kind of like just opens the floodgates. And I think because a lot of people weren't being asked these questions, it kind of ended up that we didn't really have to say a lot in these interviews. People were just so willing to talk for ages about everything they've experienced, because it felt like they weren't getting that elsewhere. And I think a lot of like the comedy in the show does interestingly come from our kind of like this kind of like Western British way that we deal with grief, and this kind of idea of like covering it up and pretending it doesn't happen when it's literally like the only guarantee in life and it's the most natural thing. But like the comedy comes from like pretending that it's not happening. And we spoke to someone who they kind of had their mum wasn't going to make it until Christmas, so they had Christmas early. And so we create this clown scene of this family trying to make Christmas Day in the middle of July, and it's boiling hot. And like I think that scene the most kind of like really pulls between like, is this happy, is this sad? Because they're trying to have the happiest day of the year. It's Christmas Day, but you can see that they're just heartbroken. And I think that really sums up the show kind of like as a whole, and this kind of feel that grief is like a farce, and it is so extreme that I think it's sometimes so hard to describe that maybe seeing a clown show with techno music and like UV lights and just this outrageous experience, for some people might go, yeah, I do, that actually is exactly how I feel.
Grace Gallagher, co-artistic director at Ugly Bucket Theatre. You're going to be performing at the Art of Grieving Festival.
Yes.
What is that going to take? What form is that going to take?
So we're going to be performing our show Good Grief on the 20th of July at the Abbey Theatre. And I think out of like all the shows that we've done, because we toured the show last year a little bit, but I think out of everything, we're so excited for this because we've never performed the show in a festival specifically around grief and bereavement. So I think it really feels like I think that the show is going to find its home there. And I think my neck literally hurts from just nodding so much at everything that Becky and Gary have been saying, because I resonate with it so much. And I think everything that has been said about like the ups and the downs and the roller coaster and the light and the dark, I think is just everything that we've tried to put into Good Grief, and the experience that we try to give the audience is that feeling of everything in 1 hour of all the emotion. And people do describe the show as a roller coaster. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait to like meet other people and other artists who are like valuing creativity in bereavement as much as we are.
Okay, so the website is artofgrieving.org.uk. The festival is on from the 27th of May to the 4th of September. Yeah, and I can tell you that I took my dad to see a Good Grief at the New Diorama Theatre in London, and he is a veteran of the theatre. He goes pretty much every week to the West End, and he's been to Edinburgh Fringe many, many times in his 80s, and he absolutely loved that show. He really...
Brilliant. That's good to hear. Sadly, we've run out of time. Kate, Ray, thank you. Thank you for your persistence. We got there in the end, so thank you very much indeed for initially DMing me on Instagram to talk about this. Grace Gallagher, thank you to you as well, co-artistic director at Ugly Bucket Theatre.